Hi, I'm Terry. I'm here in the wood turning studio at the Black Forest Wood Company, and I'm excited today to show you the features of the new Laguna Revo1216 lathe. Let's get into it. Well, the first thing I wanted to check is how accurately it's machined and if there's any run out in the spindle, because that's going to determine how accurately I can turn and use the machine. So what I did is I mounted a mechanic's gauge up against the shoulder of the spindle, and then I turned it by hand, and these marks on here are thousandths of an inch. The needle isn't even moving, and when I turn it on at 50 RPM, there's really no perceivable run out of this spindle. So to me, this means that the quality of the machining and the quality of the bearings are excellent. The next thing I wanted to check is the accuracy of the axis of the headstock and how it lines up with the axis of the tailstock. This is important, particularly in drilling, because when the tailstock and the headstock are perfectly lined up, as you can see here, then the drill hole that you make is exactly the diameter of the drill. If this is out, not lined up, then your drilling cannot be accurate. This lathe has a very heavy-duty cast iron bed. In fact, when I measure the web, I get 12 millimeters or a half-inch thick of cast iron. Cast iron is one of the best materials for absorbing vibration in a lathe. So this is a very heavy-duty bed, and all of the fittings on the lathe are cast. The tool rest holder, the tailstock, and the headstock. One of the features I particularly like about the headstock, which is common on all Laguna lathes, is this cone, which keeps the work away from the headstock so that you can get tools into the back of the work. So regarding the spindle of this lathe, to me it's the heart of the machine. The more accurately this is machined and the quality of the bearings that support the spindle means that the better that is, the thinner you can turn and the cleaner you can turn. And in this particular lathe, these are industrial double sealed bearings. And if over the years they have to be replaced, any bearing supply shop should be able to source these bearings. One of the features of this lathe is it has a 24 position index. So an index is used with the lathe completely off, and it's used to secure the turning at different settings. So if you wanted to drill, say, into a spindle for a chair, and then you wanted to go at right angles to that, you would set the spot on the index wheel, and then you lock the spindle with this button. And what I really like about this lathe is that when this index is locked, there's absolutely no play at all, so that you have the utmost accuracy in an index position. So the cast iron tool rest on this lathe moves very easily with one hand, locks both ways in case the tool handle is conflicting with the locking handle, and then it features a clamp to hold the tool rest post. So this doesn't mark up the post, so that over the years it'll always remain true. And the clamping around the post is one of the most secure ways to hold it so that it doesn't shift in use. The tool rest itself has a hardened steel rod on the top of it so that the tool will slide easily on it without nicking the tool rest. I particularly like this tool rest because it's comfortable for the two grips that I favor the most, or used most often. One is the overhand grip for roughing out with my spindle roughing gouge. And secondly, I favor the tied underhand grip when I use a detail gouge or a spindle gouge. So the cross section of the tool rest helps me comfortably use both of those grips. Okay, the power requirement for this lathe is 110 15 amp. It's a standard 110 plug, and the 1 horsepower DC motor only draws 5 amps, so it's very comfortable to use it on a standard 110 circuit. The control panel on this model of lathe is ergonomically designed, comfortable angle to read it. Readout of the speed is directly from the spindle. So there's a sensor on the spindle that directly reads out the speed, and without stopping it, you can reverse it. This lathe has a 3-step mechanical pulley in addition to the variable electronic speed at each setting. So for more torque on the turning, you simply turn this handle to release the tension on the belt, and then move the belt to the smallest motor pulley setting, and then set the belt at the top. That's the easiest way to do it, and then just return the tension onto the belt and it's set. So if you were turning a large bowl and you needed lots of torque, you would put it on the small pulley, and if you were turning a pen with a small diameter, you would put it on the larger pulley. There are several ways to control the speed of a DC motor. The most common way is to use a rheostat, which introduces resistance into the circuit, and that drops the voltage. What's unique about this controller is that it uses a technology called pulse width modulation. The speed depends on how long the motor is receiving voltage, and then how long the motor is not receiving voltage. But the key is that at all speed ranges, the motor receives full voltage on each impulse, and that results in high torque and constant RPM, particularly at the low end and the high end of the speed range. One of the features of this drive system is the amount of torque that you get at the low end and also at the high end. But here we are at 50 RPM. I'm squeezing as hard as I can, and I cannot stop this spindle. I think a good test of the torque and the running ability of the lathe is to drill into end grain on some hard wood such as ash. So here I've got a 1 5/8 Forstner bit, and it's just out of the shop. So this Forstner bit is kind of average. It's been used quite a few times. It's not as sharp as it could be, but I think that demonstrates the torque ability of this lathe. One of the things that really impresses me about this lathe is that at its highest speed, it's incredibly smooth. So we're looking at 3,600 RPM. Put my hand on the bed, virtually no vibration, very quiet. And again, we can go into full reverse at high speed, which is handy for sanding and finishing the piece. There are a number of accessories for this lathe. The stand has a number of features. You can easily adjust the height, and rule of thumb is that you want to adjust the height of the stand so that the spindle is at the base of your elbow. It also has holes to store tools and knockout rods. Another option is the halogen light, which is easily adjustable and casts a very, very nice light directly on the work. Another accessory for this lathe is an outboard extension of the bed, and it's easily mounted due to the large holes, and then itself seats it onto the screws. Then you would tighten up the screws. So you can mount this extension on either end of the lathe to either increase its between center capacity or to turn a larger diameter. So here we can turn 16 inches in diameter. A part of the bed extension kit for outboard turning is this extension for the tool rest holder, so that you can get more height for the tool rest, and you can get out to a larger diameter. So you could turn 16 inches in diameter. When you take this hand wheel off, it's the same thread, 1'8", as is on the inboard side. I've been turning for 25 years, and I've been teaching wood turning for 19 years. And what I found that whenever I can use a lathe that helps me create what I want to make, then that's when wood turning becomes really enjoyable. If I have to work around restrictions of vibration or lack of torque or whatever, it can become frustrating. And I can assure you that the Revo1216 lathe is a wonderful machine to use and a delightful addition to the Laguna stable of wood turning lathes. If you have any comments or questions about this lathe, you can leave them in the comments below. Or if you have any questions about Laguna, you can also contact us at blackforestwood.com. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.